Welcome to day 12 of Sparks in the Darkness. Today we'll offer a final answer to our quest to this question of what it could possibly have ever been that Moshe Rabbeinu did wrong to make him unworthy to enter into the land of Israel. How could hitting the rock have actually impacted this, made a difference? Says the Netziv Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin in his simple yet deeply, deeply stimulating and profound explanation. You know what it was? You know what the problem of Moshe and Aaron's actions were in this singular moment? What you don't see is Moshe and Aaron davening to Hashem. They're in this moment of crisis, the quote unquote, as they say it, these rebels are coming up against them. They don't know what to do. It's not working. They're talking to the rock like God commanded. Nothing is happening. But they don't daven to Hashem. Moshe and Aaron, who always davened, in this moment they didn't. Why they didn't daven, you can list and try to come up with a million explanations as to why that is the case. But says the Netziv, they didn't daven to Hashem, they didn't daven to him properly, they didn't beseech him properly. And had they done that, all would have been easier. The crisis, in essence, would have been averted. But unfortunately, they didn't. And that's the mistake that they made. We come to understand that they could have taught the Jewish people exactly how to respond to a moment of crisis, and the way you respond to a moment of crisis is to daven to Hashem. But because they didn't do that, and as the pasuk says, because they were not lakdi sheni, because they did not sanctify the name of God, that was their grave mistake that prevented them from entering into the land of Israel. We have to be able to do something simple in our lives, simple yet deeply, deeply difficult, and that is to daven to Hashem. We know that. We know we're supposed to speak to God. We know we're supposed to daven to God at least 3 times a day. But to really talk to God, to really have a conversation with Him, to really turn to Him when we are struggling, that is a required level for us to reach that is sometimes very difficult to do so. When you're really struggling, you've got some bad news, you're going through something very difficult, to say, you know what, let me pause, let me take a deep breath and say, Hashem, please help me. That is a very difficult level to be on. Even those with the strongest of faith struggle with it, let alone those of us who may not necessarily have the most stellar faith in the Almighty. We have to be able to do this simple task. You're struggling, you're in crisis, you're in a moment of deep darkness, you turn to Hashem. If we could all collectively turn to Hashem together and beg for this time to be turned into one of joy and not one of despair like it is, perhaps that could be that little grain of rice to tip the scales. But we don't always do that. Hashem should give us the strength to find within ourselves to be able to turn to Him when we don't know what else to do, when we don't know where else to turn. And if, God willing, we can do that, we will be one step closer to the redemption. Wishing everyone a beautiful day.